Today I'm working on a tray. I'm super excited. I love doing trays. Usually when I do trays, they are some sort of a dirty pour, which is what I'm doing today. So just show you the tray real quick. It does have handles, but you can see it's about a little more than a 1/2 inch lip, I would say, in there. So it gives me a good amount of depth for creating a design. Today my color palette is going to be in the shades of burgundy and silver. So I'll just give you an overview of what I've got going on here. So I'm using a combination of mica powders and pigment paste because when you use a mixture of those things, you get some really cool lacing and some fun effects. So that's why I've picked out what I have here. But my mica powder, the first mica I've got here is called Maleficent. It's a counterculture DIY mica. I got this from Bearwood, bearwood.com, Bearwoods. There's no S in the URL. So that's my first color. Second one is a Lorez paste, and this one is called Golden Plum. And it's just this beautiful metallic burgundy color. Next, I've got Mix All Black. This is black number 1. I also got this from Bearwoods. And I've got some Mrs. Colorberry. So this is Moonstone Rose. This is a one of those iridescent mica powders that changes color. You really can't see it until you mix it into the resin. But this has like a gold hue, and then it kind of tilts to the pink a little bit. So this is really, really cool. And then in my little tiny cup here, I'm just going to use some Mix All Silver. Also got this from Bearwoods. So I love this silver. It's super, super metallic. It almost looks like a mica powder, but it acts like a paste or a tint. So this is one of my favorite silvers. So that's what I've got here. Everything I got from Bearwoods, if you want to check out their website, they carry a lot of awesome stuff for resin. And you can even use my coupon code on that website. It is TiftonArt, and you get 5% off with my coupon code. And usually the coupon code is even good for even off of sale items. So you actually get an additional discount a lot of times. So I'm using the Moss Art Pro epoxy for this, which I also got from Bearwoods. There's the tabletop and the Art Pro. I like the Art Pro because it gives you a little more working time. The tabletop cures, well, it cures in about the same amount of time, but the work time is less. So I prefer the Art Pro just because I'm slow. So I have 6 ounces of resin total mixed up. For this tray, I've divided it up. For the 2 purple colors, I have about 2 ounces of resin in each cup. And then for the black and the pearlescent one, I have about 1.5 ounces in each cup. And then I have, so that's what, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's more than 6. So it's probably not as much as I think. So maybe these are about 1.5 and these are maybe about 1. What would that up to? 3, 4, 5. I know there's a 1/2 ounce in here because this is a 1 ounce cup. It's half full. So 1/2 ounce of the silver, but I divided it up so the purples have a little bit more, and then the black and the pearlescent one are a little bit less, and then just a tiny bit of the silver. Sorry about that. Trying to do estimations. It's hard when these cups aren't marked. I'm just going to get some air bubbles out before I add the colorant. All right, so I'm going to start with the mica. I always like to open these bags under my table because a lot of times the mica like poofs out all over me. All right, so I'm just going to add 2 scoops into here. I want this to be a nice opaque color. I want all of these to be opaque. So if you're going to try this, and I highly encourage it, but if you are going to try this, you want to use enough colorant to make everything opaque. You're not going to get as good of results with any sort of transparent colors. And I do like to mix my micas first, just because if you don't mix them up all the way, they'll float to the top. The loose powder will float up to the top, and then you can see that and finish mixing before you pour anything. If you don't want to watch me mix all my colors, feel free to fast forward. Some people like to watch though and see how much I use of what. And like I said earlier, when you're doing a dirty pour, it really helps to have a mixture of micas, pastes. You could use acrylic ink, alcohol ink, although alcohol ink's pretty transparent. But you could really just use any combination of different types of colorants. And that combination is what gets you the really cool lacing and just all the cool effects, because they all kind of react differently with the resin and with each other when they touch. So it's a lot of fun. You never know what you're going to get when you do a dirty pour with all these different colorants. So as you can see, I'm mixing this paste. It's very thick. Pigment pastes, some are super thick, some are not quite as thick, but they're made with powder. So that's why they thicken up. So you always need to mix them. Even if they look mixed, mix them anyways, because that powder settles down to the bottom. And then also, if it's cold in your room, they're going to be thicker like this. It's a little cooler in my room today. It's about 70 in here instead of the usual 73. So this is a lot thicker than usual. If you ever open one of these up and it's hard as a rock, just set it in some hot water for a few minutes and it'll soften back up. Now that I've gooped this all over the edge. All right, so for about 2 ounces, and again, I want this opaque, so I'm going to take a decent size scoop here. We'll start with that. Let's wipe this off. Oh, I should have done my other mica. I'll do that next. All right, get this stirred in. And when you use a pigment paste, you want to make sure you scrape it off the stick too, because it's gonna stay on that stick if you don't scrape it. Look how pretty that is. And these are like 2 different shades. This is more purple and this is more of a red, but I think they're gonna combine for some really fun effects on this tray. That's what I'm hoping for anyways. Scrape my stick off again. So it is actually December 23rd. So the day before Christmas Eve. And I apologize, if you follow my channel, you know that I have not put a video out in a while, and I apologize for that, but I got completely inundated with Christmas orders and just did not have time to put any videos together in the last month or so. And I wanted to, I kept thinking as I was making things, I kept thinking, oh, you should just film this and then you can turn it into a video, but I was just so focused, hyper focused on getting orders out the door. I just did not. So, but I'm planning on kind of resuming my cadence from earlier, which was a video every week or so. I know I'm not on a regular schedule. I would love to be one of those YouTubers that puts a video out every day, or, you know, like clockwork every Monday or something. And it's just hard. I work a full-time job, and then I have my resin business, and I have my dogs and my life. So, but I'm going to try to get back to every week to 2 weeks having a video for you guys. So, all right, so this is that. This is Colorberry. And And hopefully you can see that pink pearl in there. It's just so pretty. So this tray, it's not just gonna be just a pour, this dirty pour. I'm actually gonna come back and you'll see this, you know, after it cures in the next part. I'm gonna come back and put a design on it with glitter and I think some tiny little flowers. I'm hoping, I'm gonna have to see about the depth because they're 3D flowers and I have to make sure I have enough room to cover them so that they're fully submerged. So we'll see. I may have to hand paint the flowers on if I can't use the little paper flowers, but yeah, so this is going to be pretty cool. I'm going to have a horse design on it, which you probably saw in the pictures promoting this video. I obviously haven't made it yet, but by the time the video comes out, I'll have pictures. The tip on this keeps popping off, and I have black all over myself. What if it cracked? I don't know, every time I take the lid off, the little tip comes with it, so I'm not sure what that's about. All right, so for opaque with the Mixol, I found a good rule of thumb is 10 drops per ounce. That works really well with the white, and it works really good with the black. Some of the other colors you might have to kind of experiment with, but I have about, I think I have 1.5 ounces in here, so I'm gonna do 15 drops. Okay. It's got black everywhere now. This is such a rich black. So nice. I love the Mixol colorants. Definitely on my favorite list. So what are you guys doing for Christmas if you celebrate? We are staying home for Christmas Eve. My boyfriend's daughter's gonna come by for dinner. I think they're gonna go see a movie in the afternoon. I think they're gonna go see Spider-Man. And then we're gonna have dinner here. And then we're staying home on Saturday, Christmas Day. Not going anywhere. We're gonna go to, we're gonna go see The Matrix in the afternoon, but we're not visiting family. We're gonna go visit family on Sunday. My family's up in Wisconsin. I'm in Illinois, just south of Chicago. So we're gonna head up there on Sunday. So I gotta make pie and cookies. All right, so I'm gonna do 5 drops of the silver. Now, this comes out really thick. Those aren't really drops, but we'll see. It's kind of a drizzle. But yeah, you guys will be seeing this after Christmas because this layer is gonna need a day to cure, and I'm not gonna be pouring resin Christmas Eve. Christmas Day I might have time to come in and put the next layer on. I'm not sure. But yeah, so this will definitely be posted after Christmas. But yeah, even though you won't see this until after Christmas, I'm still gonna say I hope you have a wonderful holiday. Very, very gorgeous silver. Looks like molten metal. And it is nice and opaque. All right, so got the colors mixed up. And I always like to just blow the air off, or blow the bubbles off the top with the heat gun. You have to be careful not to melt your cups if you're using plastic cups. So that's why I go back and forth on them. But it's really nice helps just reduce the bubbles when you actually pour. All right, so now since this is a dirty pour, I'm going to be pouring these back into the cup that I mixed the resin in to begin with, which I just got resin on this. All right, so I'm going to be pouring it back in. So now what you need to think about when you're doing a dirty pour is the color that you pour in the cup first is going to be the last color that comes out. So it's going to be the most prominent color. And the color you put in last is going to be what you pour out first. So it's going to be on the bottom and it will be the least prominent. So I'm actually going to put the black in first. No, most prominent goes in first. I always tell people how to do it correctly and then I do it wrong. All right, so I want this reddish burgundy to be the most prominent color in this design. So I'm putting that in the cup first. All right, then my next most prominent color, I'm going to go for this pearlescent. Now when I pour on top of this, I don't just pour in the middle because resin's heavy and it's actually going to go down through this layer. So I'm going to try and pour it just on the surface. I want to try and keep as much of it on the surface as I can. So I'm just going to pour like this. So there isn't just like a heavy concentration of resin in one spot. And you can practice with different ways of filling your cup because the different ways you fill it, it comes out differently. So you end up with different effects. But that's what I'm doing today. Well, another really good way to do it is to tilt the cup you're pouring into and pour down the sides so that it kind of pools on the bottom, or it's more gentle of a pour. I've done that in some previous videos. You tilt the cup and then pour down the side of it. All right, so my next most prominent color, I'm going to do the Maleficent Mica. From the side, this will look like a parfait. It'll have all the different layers of color. All right, then I'm going to do the silver. And then the black last. So there still will be black visible because the layers on top are going to do some lacing and they're going to separate and things are going to sink. So you'll still see the black, you'll still see the silver, but it won't be as prominent. But that's the plan anyways. I have done some of these pours where I'm surprised. That's the fun of resin though. If you pour resin and you're not surprised, then you're doing something wrong. Just kidding. All right, let me clean up a little bit of my mess here. I always keep a wet wipe around because I seem to always get resin on my hands, and you don't want to get resin on your tray. So when I pick this up to tilt it, I want to make sure I have clean gloves. All right, let's grab another paper towel too. All right, so getting ready to pour it. So I don't think I can tilt this enough to show you the side. No, it's all, oh, there you can see a little bit. Yeah, there's the layers of color in there. So, all right, so I'm just gonna pour this kind of in like a S pattern. And you'll see how those colors come out in order. And then when you scrape, I try to be careful not to mix the colors as I'm scraping. I'm trying to keep them separate. Okay. All right, so my next step now, I am going to hit it with a heat gun and warm this up because it's a lot easier to tilt and move around if it's warm. This is my favorite part, just watching all the design come to life here. It's so cool. Now you don't want to tilt it super far so that the resin moves really fast. I like to let it move a little bit more slowly. Because if it moves too quick, you can kind of climb up the sides of the tray, and then you end up with like almost like a lip of color around the side. So I try to do it slow. There's no rush. And as it's going, you can see some of the cells are starting to open up, which is really cool. And see that silver right in that corner. So pretty. And I'm just going to shift it back. All right, so now you can see the design. It's kind of a line here, and that's from the tilting. It's nice and abstract over here. So what I'm going to do is just blow it around a little bit with the heat gun and try to break this up a little bit. And that's also going to pop some of the bubbles. And being thinner, it'll help thin it out a little so that it levels itself nicely. I'm just going to kind of blow this line around and blow some of the silver out. And then there's this big black area in the corner here. So I'm going to blow some of this color towards the corner. right, and then I'm just gonna take, there's a tiny bit left in the cup. I'm actually just gonna drizzle what's left into this black corner. Just want to get some color in there. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of babysit this for about 10 minutes with my torch, and I'm just going to zap the bubbles as they pop up. They will continue to rise up. The fun thing with the bubbles, if you pop them, is that's what creates some of this lacing and the cool effects is actually the bubbles. So that's why I babysit it. I want to make sure they pop. Then I'm going to cover it. And then I will be back for step 2. So let me zoom you in. Take a close-up look here. Let me turn off my lights. Now it looks really washed out. It's very, I don't know what's worse or better. It's actually a very rich, dark purple and burgundy. It's not coming through as well just because of all the glare, but you can see that glitter. That's from the silver Mica, so there's a nice silver tone to it. It's just so pretty. All right, so like I said, I'm going to babysit this for a little bit, and then I will be back in the next step with the hand painted layer. I'll show you how I do that. So we'll see you then. Okay, guys, so I was right. I did not think I would get to this this next step until after Christmas. It's actually been a week. New Year's Eve was last night. So it has been a week since I poured this, but you can see how it turned out. Super, super cool. So now I'm ready to put the design on here and get it glittered. So I cut out a stencil. This is what I'm going to use for the horse. I'm going to draw around that. And then I pulled out some glitters that I'm going to use for the design. And these are actually all from Glitter Makes It. So the horse is going to be in this one. It's called Heavenly Gates. It's not gold and it's not silver. It's kind of a mix of the two. And it's just a really, really stunning glitter. I love this. So this will be the horse. And then there is going to be like a ribbon of color that just kind of goes behind the horse. I'm going to do that in blue. And I'm going to mix in some of this silver. So the blue I'm using is Dark as Night. This is just a really nice navy. It's just a fine glitter. It doesn't have any of the bigger... Oh, actually, trying to see... Well, actually, it looks like it does have some bigger pieces, but it's all the same color blue. There's no color variance in there. So I'm going to mix in some of this Girl's Best Friend, which is a really cool, it's a silver and a white mix. So I'm going to mix these two together, and then I'm also going to add a little bit of this. These are just bigger flakes of blue. So I'm going to mix that in. And then across the body of the horse, I'm going to put a blanket of red roses. So I'm going to first put down a base of this red glitter. It's called Marooned. It's just a really deep red. I would not say it's a maroon color. It's actually just a deep, deep red. I'm going to put that down first. And then the roses, I bought these are beads, but they're metal. And they're all different little flowers, but I'm going to use the red ones. Let's see if I can zoom in on this and hopefully keep it in focus. But I'm going to use these little red flowers and create the blanket of roses on the horse with these flowers. So I bought 4 packs of these. I'm not sure how many I'm gonna need. Yeah, so I thought that would be fun. To put the glitter down, I am using this acrylic gloss. And you can use this as a varnish, or you can mix it with acrylic paint to make it glossy. But this is what I use. I mix this with the glitter and then just kind of paint it on. I know other people use different kinds of varnishes, but I really like this. Works really good. And then I'm also going to be putting down some glass. These are just little tiny, we got blue and silver. So this is going to be kind of what the horse is trotting on. So it's going to be kind of the ground. And I'm going to use this gloss. I'll just paint a clear layer down to hold the glass in place and also to hold the flowers in place. So this almost acts like a glue also. So to get the stencil, I'm first just going to use this metallic pen. This is just an acrylic paint pen. It wipes right off of resin with just a dry paper towel. You don't have to use anything. But if it's on there good, you can just use some Windex or glass cleaner, and it comes right off. So this is what I'm going to use to put the drawing on. So I just want to make sure, I'm just going to tilt it up so I can see a little bit. I just want to make sure I have it where I want it. So I'm not actually going to center the horse. I decided I want it a little this way so that I've got room for that blue ribbon to come through. All right, so I'm just going to trace around this. Okay, so that is, I think that's good where I want the design. So the next step now is to put the lines in, and I use the PBO, these are their outliners, and I'm going to use black to outline the ribbon, silver for the horse, and then I have some clear that I'm going to use where the red flowers are going to go, because I don't have this in red. I don't think they make this in colors. And it's gonna be covered up by the flowers anyways, so clear is fine for that. So I'm gonna start with the black. Now, the trick I've kind of found with these is you have to make sure that the opening is perfectly round. If it gets compressed or flattened in any way, the paint that starts coming out of here will start to curl and you won't have nice straight lines. So as I'm working with this, I wipe it off periodically, but if it does start to curl, I just double check it and make sure that the tip really is round. So I'm just going to go ahead and do all the line work now. Okay, so I got the lining done, so I'm just gonna let this dry now. This, it's white, but it will dry clear. These two little areas, those are gonna be ribbons. I'm actually gonna paint those with some glittery red paint, but I just wanted them kind of raised up a little bit so that they don't get covered with the glitter that I'm gonna be putting down later. So I'm gonna let this dry, and then I will be back. Okay, all of the outlines are nice and dry, so it's time to put the glitter in, my favorite part. So I just use these little 1 ounce cups, and I'm gonna start with the blue ribbon in the background. So that is a mixture, like I showed you earlier, of this navy glitter, this blue, and a little bit of this white and silver mix. So I'm gonna mix it up into my cup first. Let me make sure you guys can see what I'm doing. Zoom out a little bit here. Get my whole tray. Okay. All right. So I like to put, when I'm mixing multiple colors of glitter, actually, I put the glitter into the cup first, mix them up, and then I add the varnish. If I'm just using one glitter, sometimes I'll put the varnish in the cup first. But I've found if you put the glitter in first and then add the varnish, it helps you get the right thickness with the varnish and the glitter. You don't want this to be too thin, because otherwise, as you paint it on, if you don't have enough glitter in the mixture, if it's too much varnish, then you end up with it being too transparent and the background shows through. But if you have too much glitter and not enough varnish, then the mixture is too thick and it's hard to spread. So I find it's a little bit easier to get the right ratio if you put the glitter in the cup first, then you just add, add varnish and stir it. And then if you need to add more, you just add a little more. So I'm gonna do I did 3 scoops of the navy glitter, 1 scoop of this blue. I'm gonna mix it up and see what it looks like. I don't want it to be too bright. I want it to be mostly navy. All right, so I'm gonna add 1 more scoop of navy. So I want just enough color variation to make it interesting, but I want it just to be mostly navy. I'll mix that up again, and then I'll add the silver. Okay, then I'm just gonna add a 1/2 scoop of this silver. Now this is probably not gonna be enough to do the whole ribbon. I might have to mix up more. So it's important to keep track of what you're mixing together. So if you have to mix up more, you can get the same look. If you're just randomly dumping glitter into here, then you have to mix up more. It may end up being a different color or different tone. Okay, so I really like how that looks. So now I'm gonna add my varnish. I just wanna wipe off my spoon real quick. That glitter off of there. Okay, so I'm gonna shake this up. So this particular varnish you have to shake because it does separate. Okay, so that's too thick. See how it's a paste? So for what I do, I like it to be a little thinner than that. So you'll just have to play around with this mixture, see what kind of a ratio you like to work with. And this varnish does look white, but it dries clear. So even this, even though this mixture has kind of a milky look to it now. All right, so this to me is about perfect for what I'm doing. So you can see as I stir it, it eventually fills back in where I stirred. So that's about how I like my mixture of glitter and varnish. All right, so let me wipe off my varnish, close it up. All right, so, whoops, don't do that. Make sure I get all this off of here. The thing with this varnish is it is gonna be permanent. If there's any on here. All right, oh, that's a little more. Okay, I think I got it all. All right, so I'm just gonna start in this upper corner and I'm gonna just kind of pour it on, almost like resin, but it's much, much thicker than resin, of course. And then just spreading it out with a paintbrush. I'm just pushing it where I want it to go. All right, so the next thing I'm gonna do, I'm going to actually sign it because I don't want to forget to do that. So I usually use like an oil-based paint pen. I have found the Sharpies, they're the finest of all the ones that I've been able to find. So I like to use the Sharpies for my signature. I'm just gonna put it down here in the corner. And the good thing about this, if you mess up, you can get this off with an oil-based cleaner. So it does come off the resin if you screw up. I'm just gonna go, there's a few little glitter pieces in here. Just gonna kind of tilt it so I can see. I don't want any stray glitter when I go to pour. Okay. All right, so now I'm just gonna put the varnish down for the glass. Well, actually, I'm not gonna do that yet. And the reason why, I'm gonna wait until all of this dries and I'll come back because I still need to remove this silver marker that you can kind of see around the edges of some of this. Let me grab my camera. Zoom you in so you can kind of see the overlap of the marker right on the edge here. So I want to get rid of all that before I pour the resin, and I don't want to cover it with varnish because then I won't be able to get it off. So I'm going to let this dry. I'll come back to finish the ribbons, clean it up, and then pour the top coat. So I'll be back once this is dry. Okay, everything is dry, so now it's time to just get rid of the overflowed lines there. So I'm going to do is use a paper towel and a little bit of Windex. And you don't want it like soaking wet, just damp. You could technically get these lines off with just a dry paper towel. You don't even really need to wet it. But I don't want to push too hard up against the raised paint line because I don't want to move it. You know, I don't want to risk detaching it from the resin by pushing too hard on it. So the Windex or window cleaner. You could use alcohol too, but I try not to put alcohol on my resin, but you could if that's all you have. Okay, now I noticed a couple of these roses are loose. So I just got some, this is basically nail glue. And these couple of loose ones, I'm just gonna glue down because I don't want them to float when I pour the resin in here. That's why I was pushing them into the varnish, because I wanted them to stick down. I don't think they'll float because they are metal, so they're not super light, but just in case. Okay, then the last step before the resin is to put the glass down. I'm gonna get my varnish again. I'm just gonna put some into a little cup. And the varnish dries clear, so you don't have to be worried about, you know, if you leave streaks or anything, it's not gonna be visible. There's some streaks right here around the foot. You probably can't see them through the camera, but you know, I can see them. But once the resin covers it, they'll be invisible. Here's the glass. Okay, so I'm just using this pretty small size of crushed glass, and I'll put a link to this in the description. I love using glass in my art. If you've watched my channel, you've seen you've seen me use a lot of glass. It's one of my favorite things. So when these types of horses trot, they tend to kick up dirt in front of themselves. So I'm actually going to kind of play with that and put some glass up in the air in front of the front leg there. That was way too much varnish. Let me pour this back in here. Oh, I guess I can't get the top off. Never mind. I'll just save that just in case. All right. I'm just going to kind of sprinkle this on, and then I'll spread it around with the paintbrush. Pretty good. All right, so I'm gonna let all this dry, and then I'm just gonna come back and it'll be time to do the top coat. So I'll see you once this dries. Everything is dry and ready for the top coat. So that's the last step here. I have mixed up 10 ounces. I'm hoping that's enough to cover the flowers because they do stick up. Not quite 1/4 of an inch, but I'd say between 1/8 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch. So hopefully this 10 ounces will cover them. If not, I can just come back after this layer cures and add a little bit more, but hopefully it'll be good. And I'm just pouring over the roses first. Because if there are going to be air bubbles, it's going to be in that area. So just want to make sure to pour over them to help push the bubbles out. It's so funny to me how liquid bends light, you know, and resin is a liquid and it bends the light. So the minute I pour this on top of everything, it flattens it out and it makes it look very 2D. It loses that three-dimensional look. You spend all this time creating beautiful three-dimensional things and then you pour resin on it and it flattens it out. But luckily, it doesn't stay that way. I think resin, it just does some interesting things with light and color. You do lose some of the depth, but it also adds a different element of depth that you don't get from just not having resin on something. I don't know. It's hard to describe. If you work with resin though, you know what I mean. Oh. All right, let me hit this with the heat gun and spread it out. All right, so it looks like the flowers are not quite covered. I probably could have done maybe 2 or 3 more ounces would have done it, but just the tips of the flowers are sticking up. But instead of mixing up more resin and pouring it in right now, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna let this cure and then I'm gonna come back and do another coat. And the reason I'm gonna do that is because my resin was actually sitting for a little bit, so it wasn't like fresh mixed, and I don't want there to be any discrepancies in how it cures. So I'm just gonna let this cure, and I'll come back and put a second clear coat on, which I'm not gonna film that part, it's just a clear coat. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. It's something different. And if you have any questions or anything, please feel free to leave them in the comments. I always go through the comments and answer any questions that I see. And if you enjoy my channel, please go ahead and subscribe, share it with your friends, and I will see you next time. Take care.